am back again with the review of the Yak-24 in Heliborne. 1952, the Russian military put out specifications for two helicopters. One which was given to the Mill Design Bureau, and the other one was given to the Yakovlev. The mills were to be a mill was for a medium-sized transport helicopter of about 12 troops. The Yakovlev Design Bureau got they wanted it designed for carrying 24, a minimum of 24 troops, which is interesting, as Yakovlev had never built a helicopter ever. So, they got the specification for a large transport helicopter. This was in early part of the summer of 1952. This flew in July of 1952. Very quick. So what did he come up with? Well, Yakovlev come up with a interesting design, at least for Russian helicopters, which is this twin rotor design, where they are not stacked on top of each other. The Russians use the twin rotor quite often in a lot of their helicopters, but they were stacked on top of each other. The Yak-24 spread them out, similar to the American helicopters. With the two different engines and connected drivetrain, this caused a massive amount of vibration, and they were never ever able to really fix the problem, which is one of the things that led to its eventual downfall, or being replaced by the Mi-6. However, they did build these in a kind of an interesting numbers. They're not an easy thing to track down, anywhere from 40 to 100. The production started in 1956, and nobody really knows when they were ever withdrawn from service. However, they did produce a civilian version of this, not only as a transport helicopter, but as a heavy lift sky crane. In fact, when it came out in 1955, it produced two world records for height and altitude and weight for what it was able to lift. They did improve on this. They did improve on the Yak-24. The Yak-24U carried 40 troops, and it was able to carry two small Jeep-like Russian Jeeps, apparently, along with anti-tank guns. It was a little bit of everything. So if we actually look at the aircraft, you'll see what I'm talking about. It does have the ramp down the back, able with the troops and equipment. It could carry this version, the Yak-24 here, could carry 30 troops, or it could carry 18 stretchers, or I believe a little bit over 4,000 pounds of internal cargo. It does have a chin-mounted 50 caliber 12.7 millimeter machine gun, which allows you to fire a little bit behind. Obviously, off to the sides, this thing rotates, and you're able to do that, at least for the defensive part of it. It was an interesting aircraft. Obviously, it was something that didn't really work out for the Russians. They had problems with the twin rotors, and of course, it was replaced by the heavy transport Mi-6 that turned out to be, that was built in large numbers and whatnot. So this kind of a dead end solution for what the Russian military was looking at for. This, of course, is a Generation 1 Russian in this game. So what do we get in game, of course? We get 12.7 millimeter chin-mounted machine gun. What's interesting about so if you're not familiar with Heliborne, we have essentially three classes. You have an attack, you have a scout, and then you have a transport helicopter. This one, with the number of soldiers it can carry, it's also able to carry specialized soldiers, and this is where it comes really into a play of its own. We have the mortar team, we have the RPG, and we have the man-pad. The mortar team is you use quite a bit with scout helicopters. You can drop off mortar teams anywhere on the map as long as you can land your helicopter without crashing, drop the troops off, and then that mortar team can be used for taking out enemy emplacements by using the scout helicopter, which has a mortar, essentially a mortar observer on it, and lets you lets you be able to use the mortars that this helicopter drops off. It also carries, of course, man pads and RPGs, which you can drop near your bases to fend off enemy helicopters or enemy ground troops, that kind of thing. So yeah, it's a very important part of the game, being able to put up these extra troops on the ground. You know, it's not just delivering troops or objectives. You can, like I said, reinforce bases, and of course use the mortars to take objectives. So yeah, that's the aircraft. I'm going to bring up a couple games for you guys to watch. It's a slow, massive machine. Some of these landing pads are not very big. You're going to see me be really careful when I land, because this thing has a tendency to fall off the pad, land its ass up against a bunker, and go boom. So it can be kind of interesting with this one. Like I said, with the size of this helicopter, it doesn't often fit on pads very well. So I'll bring up the gameplay for you guys, and you guys can check this out. Alright guys, back with the gameplay in the Yak-24, and yeah, well, let's see what we're going to do here. So usually the initial part of it here, especially when I get troops loaded, I'm going to be spreading my, not necessarily strategy involved here. This is more along the lines for the, being able to produce the video. I'm going to be running over here and dropping troops at the objective 1. Of course, along the way, you're going to see me also be dropping RPGs and mortar crews that I'm going to be using with my scout once I'm done taking some of the objectives here. So I'm going to roll in here on the first objective. This thing is not notoriously fast. I believe the historical Yak-24 had a top speed of about 175 kilometers, or about 109 miles an hour. So yeah, it was literally a flying boxcar, as the Russians called it. The NATO designation for this aircraft was horse. Yeah, that's what they call it, the horse. So yeah, it takes a little bit. So when you see me here, see the icon above the helicopter? That's where I'm going to start dropping mortars here. And you see the mortars evacuating off the helicopter, and they're setting up the mortar crews right now. And these are the guys I'm going to use a little bit later when I get my scout helicopter up. So I'm going to give you a little bit of gameplay, not with just this, but with the KA light reconnaissance helicopter. That's what this in this game is what these transport helicopters do. They spread mortar teams around. They reinforce objectives with man pads and RPG. So I'm going to head south here. I'm trying to get over here to the objective number 4. Being lightly armored as it is, you try not to get yourself into too much of a fight with anything. Large numbers of ground troops. My door gunner just opened up on some baddies. I got a incoming boat. Pick him off, and I'm going to try to move in here on the objective 4. I got two more guys coming in. The 50 cal works fine for riverboats and for ground troops. Anything that's armored, this does not do well. Like I said earlier, with a massive ass, I guess. What else would I call it, I guess? It is not easy to get in on some of these landing spots, especially if there's anything around it. So you're going to see me here really be careful, because I have this thing has a tendency, once you land, if it rocks too much, or, for example, that building that's right below me on the ass end of this aircraft, you hit that and you're going to go boom. So I'm going to pull down in here. I'm going to back up, see if I can get in here, and down on. Come on. Try to get down here on the dock. Slowly but surely. Come on, Zem. There we go. Drop my troops off, and I'm going to drop a couple mortar teams here. I normally would not drop them at the objective for obvious reasons. Once these objectives get taken, you lose your mortar teams. But like I said, I'm doing this for a video, so I'm in kind of a hurry. Typically, you just want to look for a flat area, just about anywhere. Once you find that flat area, you can drop off your mortar teams. My door gunners have picked up a target, and I'm gotta get out of here. It's gonna be hard to get around the objective number 5. I pop over here, and I'm looking. They have yellow here. orange here shows me that there's enemy activity. I'm going to see if I can strafe some of them. Not doing well. Probably not a good idea. Zim fucked up. No! Help me, Nicolas Cage. Oh, I'm fucked. So, there I go. Which isn't a bad thing. Otherwise, I have to fly all the way back to up to the base to get my scout helicopter. So, that's the first part of this, essentially how these transport helicopters work in this game. Now, this is the other part. This is why transport helicopters are so effective here. I bring up my mortar teams, and you see now the 3 mortar teams that I dropped off. Now I have the ability to use that with my scout helicopter when I stop flying too close to the target. Yeah, that was my fault. But I finally get over here, and now I'm going to use my cover, and I'm going to use my mortar teams that I was able to drop off with the Yak-24. Pick up my first target, pull in my reticle on my mortar teams, and now I'm firing. And you'll slowly see the mortars start to land, knock out my first target, got my next target. Let's see here. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to knock out these targets on these objectives. I'll do 5 and 2. You see, notice 5 and 2 are both blue, so that means the enemy has the objective. So I'm going to knock out both of these, and then I'm going to go back and get my Yak-24, bring in, drop the troops off, take the objective. So I've knocked out the 2 AA positions at number 5. Now with the ammo you see down there on the bottom with the mortar teams, once they run out of ammo, you can no longer use them unless you go pick them back up, and that's what's great about the transport. You can do that. You'll pick up the mortars, refill the mortars, and then you can go drop them back off. So picked up the last of the targets on the objective 5, and I'm going to roll over here to objective 2. This worked out nice for the video because I don't have to fly very far, and with the KA here, and I'm going to move around here to number 2 and see what I can do. Back around, play a little bit of peeky pokey here, move over, there we go, slowly but surely, back up a little bit. I'm going to use my essentially binocs and see if I can spot any of the blue targets. Pick up my first, actually 5 of them, AA positions here. And I'm going to start dropping more mortars on them, slowly but surely. You know what, you can do this with any transport helicopter if they have the ability to carry mortar teams. The Yak-24 has a massive amount of troops, so you can carry a crap ton of mortar teams. In fact, it seems like the more mortars you have, of course, the easier and quicker the targets are eliminated. So you've seen that I've actually lost a mortar team somewhere. Probably at number 4 when I dropped him off there that he got killed. And that's typically why you don't want to drop mortar teams at objectives, is because when it does get taken, you lose your mortar team. But some of these maps are not always the easiest to find flat spots. You'd think like right in here would be an easy place to, not necessarily. Once you land, if it's off a little kilter, your helicopter has a tendency to slide and that kind of stuff. So I can't quite get all of the AA positions on that objective because they were behind the hills. So I'm going to move in here off to the side so I can get in on top of this objective, drop some mortars. The first set are on the way. Reloading, ready again. See if we can drop another set. Finished off that AA position. Got 1 more to go. And then I'm going to go back and get the Yak-24 and bring him in here to take the objectives and drop some more mortar teams that I'm going to need later on. So, take my scout copter back to the resupply base, pick up my Yak-24, and proceed once again to be the school bus for the game. This one's, like I said, this is almost like a Ferrari compared to the Yak. Yeah, it's just a huge helicopter, and you don't realize how big it is until you play some of these other smaller scout helicopters or even the attack helicopters. Compared to, like I said, compared to this one, it's just a flying bus. So we drop down here, land on my pad. All right, so I'm going to switch helicopters, pick up my Yak-24, and we're off. So we're going to go to objective number 5 first, and we're going to pull in here and drop our first set of soldiers on here. You know, with the massive number of soldiers you can carry, you could do all 5 objectives pretty easily with this helicopter. Come winging in here, and in a historical fashion, this one's a little bit slower than I think. Like the actual helicopter is supposed to be 175. I think you're gonna get about maybe 160 out of this if you're lucky. Pull in here, try to set it down without falling off the pad. There we go. Perfect landing for once. So I'm gonna drop another mortar team here. Oh, maybe I didn't drop the mortar team. So I'm going to go through the middle here to number 2 and try to see if I can pick up number 2. Up we go, up we go. Now, if you guys haven't tried this game out, I think it's $20 on Steam. You know, if you're interested in this kind of stuff, go for it. It just has enough with the 12.7s to be somewhat effective against ground troops. Once again, if there's a bunch of them, you don't want anything to do with it. So come on through here, roll through the center here. Typically going through here usually doesn't mean that you get the shit shot out of you, but unfortunately for me, the troops are everywhere. So pull down in on here on number 2. And she kind of glitched out here for a little bit. You'll see the nose stop it bobbling around. I'm not sure what that was all about. But the fact that these landing zones are so tight, if I do fall off, you know, here for example, I started teeter-tottering on it, drop off my soldiers, take the objective, and I got one more to the south at number 4. I still have 4 more, the 4 mortar teams available, and of course RPGs. I just dropped off an RPG group, and now I'm back on my way, headed south. Yeah, if you're into the slow bus thing, this is your machine. Like I said, it's relatively, yeah, not terribly well armored, but it does carry a crap ton of soldiers. Pick up the patrol boat, come back around. Like I said, it's okay with, of course, with the lightly armored targets and individual soldiers. It does fine. You notice there I use the chin gun. You know, you can of course hit it off target. Unfortunately, there is just way too much shit coming in here. Yeah, I need to duck into cover, find my cover through here, and it's time probably to head back and pick up the scout plane, the scout helicopter, and start taking out that objective again. So back to base with it, and of course I'm going to go pick up a scout helicopter and take out the with the mortars. So yeah, that's the helicopter. I'm not going to bore you and keep going on with this. I'll have more in-depth play a little bit later, but this gives you guys kind of an idea about what the Yak-24 is all about and what it can do. So thanks for watching, guys, and we will see you later on tonight.